Welcome back. Now for an absolute visual treat, because he says it's his last solo show and it's already been described as a work of defining greatness. The dancer and choreographer Akram has stunned audiences with Xenos, a tribute and a lament to the millions of Indian soldiers who fought in the trenches of the First World War. If he's true to his word, it'll mark the end of a staggering career which has spanned 2 decades and has simply redefined contemporary dance. Just have a look at this.
What is my end? Where do I end? Are you there? Can you hear me?
Well, I'm absolutely delighted to say Akram joins me live here in the studio. Welcome and congratulations. You can't argue with the critics. It is absolutely stunning, Xenos. I mean, it follows an Indian soldier, previously a dancer. Just tell me a little more about how it came about.
Well, in early 2017, actually even probably 2016, we were talking with 1418 Now, which is an organisation that is commemorating 100 years following on from the First World War. So they approached us, and at that period I was thinking of doing my last full-length solo. I don't know, something in my body said, okay, now's the time to let go of doing such intense solos. And so the first idea I came with was Prometheus. I was fascinated by Greek mythology all my life, and I wanted to do something about Prometheus. But as 1418 Now came on board, we thought, oh, well, how do we connect this to the First World War? And then through 2017, there was these amazing articles, well, not amazing, but powerful articles coming out in The Guardian and the Daily Telegraph about colonial soldiers. And as I was reading on, I got more and more upset and frustrated because I was like, hang on, why didn't I study that in history?
So forgotten stories, in a sense.
Absolutely. Well, yes, omitted stories, which were then obviously forgotten because they were never spoken about. And so that really upset me. And so I wanted to, with my collaborators, we wanted to revisit history and see it from a different perspective.
It feels quite political. Is it a reflection, do you think, of where we are, Britain, currently, do you think? I mean, you said in a recent interview that for the first time in your life, you actually feel brown.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely relevant to what... it's a response to how I'm feeling today. And I think how many of us feel in relation to their government.
Post-Brexit.
Post-Brexit. Also with what's happening in America, all over the world really. Xenos is a Greek word which is the title of the piece, but it means foreigner, stranger, or even guest. I felt like I belonged, then I felt like a guest, and now I feel like a foreigner. And I think a lot of people in my company do as well, because they're from France and different parts of the world. Walls are being put up, and I wanted to remind people, perhaps through this work, that these walls are separating us.
Tell me a little more. We see there the rehearsal work in the last few seconds. How you put your pieces together, because I was looking at some comments you said recently. You talked about creating a whole load of rubbish, and I've actually cleaned that up for our audience. But in there are little nuggets that you then go back and build around.
Yeah, it's a process of filtering everything that comes to my head, and Ruth Little, who's my dramaturg, and the rest of the collaborators are also great filters. You know, they just listen to me. I say, oh, I have this idea, I have that. Because, you know, in the beginning you're just kind of sparked with so many things, but you can't say everything in 1 hour. So, and the things that resonate, the things that are the deepest, which you don't quite understand at that moment, stick. And so everything else that isn't profound enough, the ideas fall away.
And I suppose choreography, it is all about storytelling. That's sort of integral to everything. And it's interesting, your work, Desh, for example, explored your ancestral home in Bangladesh, your relationship with your father. I just want to show our viewers just another short clip from that. Have a look at this. I mean, it's contemporary dance, but you weave in traditional Kathak dance. Tell me more about that. For people who don't know what that is, what is that?
It's hard to describe. I mean, Kathak is a North Indian classical dance form. It's a storytelling dance form. How do I describe it? It's very percussive, it's very lyrical. What's interesting about Kathak is that it's influenced and inspired by not just Hindu mythology, but also by the Islamic, the Mughals, you know, and so it has these two areas that it draws from, and I've always been kind of, I studied it since I was 7. So,
yeah, and it's always weaved through your work. You've done so many collaborations. I mean, looking at the list, I mean, just some of the names: Kylie Minogue, Anthony Gormley, Juliette Binoche. I loved Cash with Anish Kapoor.
Yeah,
I mean, when you do all of these collaborations, did that take you to new places?
I think that's why I do them, because I try and choose the artists that are much better than me, and of course Anish Kapoor is a giant, you know, and Anthony Gormley, and so when you work with those artists, I feel like I'm learning something. But also I try to work with artists from different genres or different areas, because we talk about the same subject, but they have a different take on it, and that fascinates me.
And there you referred to Anish Kapoor. I mean, it's extraordinary. This, you modestly say you're in awe of him. You're in awe of ballet dancers as well, aren't you? And yet you work with the English ballet. So, I mean, so many of these things you've actually managed to achieve. I want to mess with your timeline. Take me back, because you were very, very shy, weren't you, when you were a kid? All your friends, they were talking about being doctors, lawyers, dentists, that sort of thing. Not you.
No,
Do you always feel different?
Yeah, I was physically not shy. I was intellectually shy. I mean, my voice was very quiet because I was, you know, I grew up in a community, Bangladesh, you know, Bangladeshi community that just, 71, the independence of Bangladesh, they came over. Their first thing my parents thought, and that community thought, was their kids need to be educated. So the kids were really driven into academics, and I just didn't sit well on a desk, by a desk, and words and language. It was just traumatic for me. So somehow, when I won a disco competition as a teenager, at that moment, roughly around that moment, people started to go, "Oh, you're Akram, you're the one who won that competition." And it was on Michael Jackson. It was a version of Michael Jackson on 5 Star. And I realized for the first time that my voice is not my voice. My voice is through my body. And so my body can be my voice. And that gave me a huge sense of confidence.
And from there, I mean, you end up at the 2012 Olympics as a Brit. That must have made you incredibly proud. But look, you're almost calling it a day. Give me an idea, as you come to that moment, the transition moment, what is it like physically, more importantly, emotionally?
I don't really know until I arrive, because I'm still doing this piece until 2020, so I'm trying not to think about it. But I know every time I perform it, in the middle, my nemesis comes up in my head, and he's there. And it's a version of me, and he comes to me and he goes, "Akram, seriously, do you want to put yourself through hell like this?" And it's in every show.
How can it be you not dancing?
You know, when I made the work with English National Ballet just a few years ago, Giselle, it was really extraordinary, because it was the first time I felt I felt a sense of freedom from my body, because I got very inspired by other people's bodies, other dancers' bodies, in a way that I've never felt before. So I think that really, I'm going to create more than dance.
Well, you've gone on to inspire so many other dancers. It's been an absolute pleasure you coming in, talking to us, joining us on today's programme. Thank you so much for your time. I'm back with all the main headlines here in a moment. Don't go away.